Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. This is going to be an update guide to the cast on crit Spark Bomber Mage. I have made quite a bit of changes. Well, I wouldn't say quite a bit. I changed the passive tree a little bit. I wanted to stay away from doing this, but I have two different sets now. One for bossing, one for mapping. The major difference is I couldn't quite figure out how to, you know, instantly one-shot bosses, but then also have more flexibility in being more comfortable in maps. You know, there is a point where I can have both, where I kind of kill bosses fast, like, and I map a little easier, but like my mapping set right now, I can kill bosses perfectly fine and, you know, really fast. But you know, for bosses, you want to kind of kill them as fast as possible to make it just super easy, so you don't have to deal with mechanics, right? So I kind of put together some questions I've been asked, and I wanted to answer those right now, so we'll get right into it. So, is it a glass cannon? No. It is not a glass cannon. I've showed a lot of clips to a lot of friends of mine, just to random people. They immediately see that my health is bouncing up and down. You know, when I cast this, my health goes down. It is impossible for me to die from me casting comets or casting spells. Simply what happens is when you get down to low life, it just prevents you from casting. The only way you die is if your mana hits 0 and your life hits 0, in that order. If you are out of life, so you can't cast Spark anymore, all you do is you hit your flask, do this, and you should lifesteal back up and start casting more comets. So next question, when can you switch to it? 54. So whenever you are able to do cast on crit, which is going to be, I believe, level 14, which 58, sorry. So we'll change that, 58. Before that, what I did is I actually leveled with, you can actually see here, I leveled with Bone Cage. Oh, can't spell. Oh, it's probably 2 words, huh? Yep. So Bone Storm and Bone Cage. The reason why is early on, you can pick up a lot of physical damage nodes, crit damage nodes. There's even more physical damage here. There's some physical damage up here and here. So it's just, I felt like a lot of people, the common question I get is Blood Mage sucks at leveling. And while I do agree, there is a certain breakpoint where Bone Cage and Bone Storm coupled with Frostwall actually starts to just clear the screen. You just cast, like here, I'll show you. We'll actually put on Bone Cage and Bone Storm right now, just to kind of show you how simple it kind of is to use those skills. So we'll take Spark off, put this on. You can use Flame Wall while leveling too. That's just going to help your Bone Storm, right? So we'll take this off, put this on. So this here and Bone Cage. So when I was leveling, I would drop this, you know, charge this up, shoot through it. It would get more damage. You could Frost Wall, do this, and then hit it. And that breaks and actually builds up your cast on crit. So early on, if you want to try, you know, doing Bone Storm with Bone Cage, that's what I did. And it worked really well. And again, you can break these with Bone Cage. So you can see here, it breaks them. And if I had enough health, yeah, see, it just summons the Comet when you do Bone Cage. Bone Cage, I think, is a pretty underrated spell. I tried getting it to work fully into endgame. I simply just didn't like it. For the purposes of endgame. Early game, it's kind of what you got to do. I think you could probably do Spark. Spark is probably perfectly fine. But I just have not tested it. I'm probably going to level up another Blood Mage to see how quote-unquote bad it really is in the early game, and then probably come out with a guide for that. But that's not what this video is about. So back to this. So I'm not summoning enough comments. What am I doing wrong? So first off, you're not really doing anything wrong. It's just you don't have, you know, the criteria, because you probably have cast on crit on, and you're probably doing exactly what I'm doing. But as you can see here, 87% crit. One of my buddies is copying this build. He's loving it so far. But he had the same kind of questions. He's like, well, you're summoning so many comments. Why am I not? I'll get to it in a bit, but it has to do with this new amulet I'm using. But a major component of that is if you're not getting enough, if you don't have enough crit, and you're not getting enough energy, you need to make sure you're here. These are all energy gain nodes. And then you might need to, you know, maybe lose some crit damage nodes to pick, you know, another gain energy node. Instead of getting these, you might want to flip these over to more crit. So you lose crit damage, but you guarantee that you're critting more often. Same thing with this. You know, you can flop this over to here or here to here. You're just trading crit damage for crit, which early on leveling through maps, you want to get as much crit as possible. And once you get enough crit, you can start to bleed crit off, like shed it almost, and then start going crit damage. Because like you can see here, I'm keeping this 10% node, and I could probably swap this off and not summon any less amount of comments. But yeah, so that is that question. And again, a little bit I'll go into I'll just talk about it now. So choir, I think in the patch notes they actually said that they were getting rid of the energy gain from Greater Lightning Bolt, but then they amended it and then actually said something else entirely about Greater Lightning Bolt. But as it stands right now, it definitely gains energy, and I'll show you guys some proof without wasting too much time. So if I bring this up, and I kind of discovered a self loop. So if you see here, we'll play this clip. So you can see the boss is immune right now. And every time the Greater Lightning Bolt hits, you can see on the top left here, it's gaining energy and enough to summon the Comet. So it's hitting with Greater, summoning a Comet. Hitting with Greater Lightning Bolt, summoning a Comet. And I am not hitting, you can see on the right here, on the bottom right, I am not hitting any spells. So that Greater Lightning Bolt helps you in mapping, because every time it triggers, it gives you energy to release the Comet. So a big part of when you get to 84, you should almost immediately equip this. I have a bossing amulet right here, and the only reason is because the +3 to all spell skills, it just scales Comet's damage through the roof. So like single target, you want more spell skills. For mapping, you want more Comets. So that's kind of how that works. And at the end here, I will do a live Breach gameplay and just show you how many more Comets I'm summoning versus when I had when I released the video at first. So yeah, so we'll go to the next question. So answer is more crit, more energy gain from tree, and choir, or just lightning amulet. Okay, that's what you need to do. So my damage is low. How do I scale it up more? So I know this build will it hits harder based off your mana, and the reason why is because of Archmage. There's a good chance they're going to nerf Archmage because it's in its current state. 100 mana seems ridiculous per 8% of damage as extra lightning. But yeah, so that's how you scale your damage. It's spell levels through your wand, through your wand, and then getting more mana. There's other ways to do it, like I'm testing out Prism of Belief. This is like a +3 one is like 40 divine, a +1 one is like 2, a +2 is like 14 divine. Again, not required. All you have to do, you can even tell here, I'm testing out these. So right here, I have spell damage and crit chance and increased energy. These jewels are super cheap. You could put this in, and I can even argue, I could probably make an argument that this is better than this, because your Comet damage in maps, at least in this point in the build, absolutely overkill, but I am just testing. So yeah, so more mana, more spell levels, and then spell damage if you can get it. Because if you notice, none of my gear here gives me inherently more damage through spell damage or whatnot. How I get more damage is max mana. So just all of your pieces of gear, get as much mana as possible. Like you can see here, if I take this off, I lose a ton of mana. But if I put something like this on, if this, just imagine if this had 100 less, this would be incredibly cheap. I put that on, and it's the same amount of mana as is this really expensive chest piece. Only advantage of this chest piece is that it gets rarity. So that's how you scale your damage. Yeah, I can't afford the gear you have. What do I pick? So kind of what I was just talking about. We'll go back here. So mana plus spell levels, and then I'd say, I forgot to mention this, more crit from tree, jewels, and wand. What do I pick? So I wanted to go in through with this, but I'm actually kind of poor right now. I don't have a lot of currency to or the patience, at least, because it wouldn't cost even nearly this much. So again, just kind of like I went over, this armor here, if you just took off the chaos and the int and just search for a chest piece with 1,000 energy, you're looking at 1 divine. If you shave up a little bit more energy, you're looking at, just instead of 4,600, I'd be at like 4,400. If I were to drop this, if mana regen rate was a little lower, this would be infinitely cheaper. Same thing with this mana regen. If this was off of it, which is kind of a quality of life thing, it just helps you regain your mana. Every single piece I have on is and can be very cheap. This is by no means a mirror build. Like if I was sitting on 4 or 5 mirrors, this build would take off to the moon, and it's almost already there without even close to that amount of investment. Like this belt here, all it does, I tested it out, but I actually sold the belt. All this belt does is give me maybe 300 to 400 more mana than a regular belt with a high life and high mana roll. That is it. It also increases your mana regen, which there is something to say about that. Because like if I take the Ingenuity belt off, I lose like 200 mana recovery. But that is largely because I lose mana. So yes, you can absolutely run this with a budget build like this. You can buy a 214 spirit Omen Scepter without the mana rolls and energy regen rolls for like under a divine, or at least a divine. So yes, this build can absolutely be ran on a budget, and it doesn't have a mechanism inside the build that requires you to spend X amount of money to get it going and online. You know, you just might die a little more often, but like every build in Path of Exile is like that. You have less gear, you die more, you get more gear, you farm more money, you get more durable, you do more damage. That's just how every build in Path of Exile works. So gear can be very cheap. Just need to look for it. Why is your life bouncing up and down? Is this ever a problem? I will just put here it's because of life tap, and no. I kind of touched upon it at the beginning of the video. The life is bouncing up and down because we're summoning a Comet, we're life stealing back, and it's rinsing, repeating with these gloves. Again, I don't think with the amount of Comets I'm summoning and the ease of how I'm accomplishing this, I don't like cast on minion. You have to do a lot of different things, or cast on minion death with Comets. You have to do a lot of different things and weird things to kind of get the Comets start to come out. The demon form build where I'm sure you guys have seen it, where they just summon 1 billion Comets per second. They have to manage and hit these weird breakpoints to kind of get the build going. What I wanted to do with this build is I wanted to build that I don't have to do anything to get the build going. All I have to do when I map is cast Spark. And that's the other thing too. I'll touch on it a little bit now. This is not really a Spark build. I can swap Spark for any skill in the game, and the concept still works. You crit, you summon Comets, and you use your life, and it just it rinses and repeats. The only thing is Spark just right now, as of this build update, or sorry, this point in the game, seems to be the best overall for when it comes to mapping and bossing. I haven't tested absolutely everything, but out of my testing, Spark seems to be the best way to activate cast on crit for this specific build. Now, I showed my build to a streamer, and he said, "Oh, it's just another Spark build." It really isn't. It's not. My damage on my Spark is infinitely lower than I've seen any other Spark build. When people look at my Spark damage, they're like, "Wow, that is incredibly low. How are you doing damage?" Well, it's not my Spark doing damage. It's my Comet. My Comet is hitting incredibly hard. That's where your damage is coming from. Yeah, life tap and nil. Can I do this on other classes? Why should I do it on Blood Mage? Yes, you can, but not like this. So again, there are other cast on crit, cast on minion death, cast on ignite even, Comet builds. But with this build in particular, the way it's set up, it cannot work on any other class. You can say 100 times that, well, I can cast a bunch of Comets on demon in demon form. Yes, okay, but it's not the way I'm doing it. So, yeah, I guess that answers that. Is Blood Mage required for this build? Yes. You cannot run the way I'm running it without Blood Mage, to my knowledge. Maybe there's some weird stat stacker build you could get enough health regen to like do what I'm doing on a Gemling. I don't know, but for what I'm doing, as far as I'm aware, you have to be Blood Mage. Can this build work on a budget? Yes. I'd say under 3 to 4 div, it will start feeling a lot better. Early on, again, I had to use Blood Cage or Bone Cage because Spark didn't seem to like activate cast on crit enough, whereas Blood Cage or Bone Cage, every time I hit an enemy, it seemed to generate a ton of energy, so I like that a lot more. So I was kind of like using Bone Cage in close quarters and summoning Frostwall on myself and hitting Bone Cage on it to break it, and it would just summon a ton of meteors. And that seemed to work really well. You know, Frostwall is a very strong leveling skill. You know, every single little wall that summons, you can see there's a ton here. All of those deal damage. And you can build your cast on crit off of it. So if you don't have a lot of crit, you can crit your walls, which gain energy. A little other known fact too, you can actually generate blood life remnants off of your frost wall. You saw it earlier in the video. I'm not gonna try to keep doing it. What do I level with? So I personally, with this build, I leveled with Bone Cage, Bone Storm, Flame Wall, Frost Wall, and that's it. So these together, so Bone Storm was for bossing, Bone Cage was for clearing, Flame Wall was for both, and then Frost Wall was for both. Obviously, like if you see a rare while you're playing the campaign, you know, I'll put /rare here, you use Bone Storm. Bone Cage, you run up, Bone Cage, Bone Cage. You pin everything so things can't even come up and hit you, and you activate cast on crit and everything's good. And again, before cast on crit, the concept still works with Bone Cage plus Frost Wall. You break the Frost Wall blows up and does quite a bit of damage. Future plans. So again, I am very amateur at this right now. I kind of haven't figured out how I want to do things. I'll probably get better with editing and fixing things a lot more when it comes to posting on YouTube. But more build guides. So as of right now, I kind of want to just make this a PoE2 channel. I just want to, you know, I really like Path of Exile. I felt like with Path of Exile 1, the situation I was in real life, I just wasn't able to kind of express it through the medium of, you know, what is YouTube. And yeah, so that's what I want to do. So I will stop blabbering and we'll play a map real quick. Sorry, I'm coughing still because I'm still getting over being sick. So, apologies for that. And we'll do this one. Okay. So in the description below, I am going to include a link to my path of building for both the new mapping version of the build and the boss killing, the pinnacle boss killing version of the build. The biggest change is we got rid of the metamorph jewel up here. We picked up this. We got rid of these nodes here, which was this one, and this one, but we pathed towards this because it's just too good. We got rid of these. And that's pretty much it. So it wasn't a lot of changing. I just really did not like the metamorphosis diamond jewel. I think it was not giving me a lot of value for what that jewel costs and how that jewel operates. This just makes my ignites or my shocks more effective. So yeah, we'll go into a map. And I'll kind of try to showcase what I'm talking about. So you'll notice when I hit Spark, it's going to call a little bolt of lightning down. So when that bolt comes down, it generates energy. So keep an eye on the energy up there. So you can see it's summoning a lot more comets. And I even have Enfeeble on right now too. So I'm doing 15% less damage. So keep that in mind as I'm walking around here. I imagine this is something they're going to fix. So don't get too comfortable with it. This build still absolutely worked without it. I just figured out that it works obviously really well. Now, even if it didn't trigger energy, I will just show you how much damage it's dealing when it lands on lightning conflux. You can see here the tooltip says yeah, about 700,000 damage per second, which is pretty wild. Again, considering my gear is not by any means perfected, nor is this build. I'm sure with way more jewel investment and a little bit of overhead, we can make this build even more crazy. But yeah, I'm not even hardly looking at where I'm going or what I'm fighting. I am just casting Spark. The bolts come out, generate energy, so do the sparks. And yeah, I fully lifesteal off of it. That's why my health is bouncing. And there we are. So we'll try to find the breach here. I think there was a breach on this map. Yeah, so and I want to start streaming. So maybe I can actually talk to some of you guys while I'm developing the build. I think that'd be really fun. It's kind of what I plan on doing. I just need to get the stream set up, and here we go. There's the breach and all that jazz. So recently got fiber internet, so that has been amazing. You can see my ping at the top, rock solid 37. My old ISP was insanely garbage compared to what I have now. This is probably not a great breach to show, but you can see, I mean, look at that. This build is so nice. Like I'm actually kind of proud of this build and how effective it is. Like all I do is I cast Spark. I don't even need high cast speed. Like I'm casting, if you look, I'm casting one Spark and it's accomplishing all of that. I think I just cast 4 there, 5, 6, 7, 8 sparks, 9 sparks, 10 sparks. Whereas, you know, Storm Mage, they have to, or Storm Weaver, they have to just get an insane amount of cast speed to get that level of clear and damage. But yeah, so I'll just leave it there. I don't really care about this breach. Kind of overrunning breaches right now, to be honest. But yeah, so if you have any more questions or comments, I will do my best to answer. I changed my MTX a little bit. I was getting tired of looking all, you know, galaxy-like, and couldn't even see the character details. But yeah, sorry, at this point I'm rambling on. So yeah, that's the updated build guide. Pretty much all we swapped out was the choir storm. We you know, our resistances are the same. You know, 35 chaos res. Again, you don't need this chest piece. You can just buy a high energy shield chest piece, and you have the same exact mana. You're just missing some rarity. So this is just a luxury chest piece, to be completely honest. So yeah, I will catch you guys in the next video. I plan on doing I'm gonna do a leveling guide for Blood Mage. I think it's kind of sorely needed. I think I tried to search, leveling build guides, or even just Googling like Blood Mage builds, and I just think a lot of people are sleeping on Blood Mage. I think there's a ton of potential with Blood Mage. Obviously, I think even it's not even in the greatest spot at the moment, but I think Blood Mage has room to be a very good class. I just think it is hard to level with it, but there are some things you can do to help yourself out with that. So I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.